Welcome you all to the daily current affairs session brought to you by Ganesh IAS Academy for the date 23rd August 2023 for the news which came in Indian Express newspaper. Okay, let's get into today's current affair analysis. The news which came today is related to young Indians but aging workforce. So what is about is we will look into the analysis so that you could able to know what does the topic of the news is about. See, right now India's is the youngest country with average age of a population is 29 years. But this is one part. But the other part is that the number of people who have been employed is very less in terms of those aged between 15 to 30. So what the author of the article has said is that he has segregated the demographic ages, that is those people those have been employed between 30 and 35, and then those people those have been employed between 30 to 45, and then those people those have been employed between 45 plus. So while segregating the ages or compartmentalizing the ages, it was very shocked that the number of people who have been employed in 45 plus years of age is very high when compared to those who have been employed between 15 as well as 15 and 30 years of age. So even though we could be able to say that India is a very youngest country across the world, but the people who have been employed in India across the sector are more in the 45 plus years of age. See, this is the comparison chart which the author has mentioned. From this itself we could able to know during 2000 this chart is related to employment figures rate for those who have been aged between 15 and 29 years. So during 2016-17 the number of peoples between this age group is this much, but those who have been employed is 10 crores 34 lakh 17,128, and fast forwarding to 2022-23 we could able to see that the number of people who have been employed in this age category 15 to 30 they are only 7 crore 10 lakh 3,678. We could see the drastic decline in the number of people aged between this category has been declined. But in the case of those people who have been aged 45 plus or 45 years and above, during 2016-17 we could able to see that nearly 15 crores 23 lakhs 72,914 people have been employed. But fast forwarding to 2022-23 we could able to see that nearly 19 crores people in this age group have been employed, and during the 7 years time you could able to see that there has been a drastic improvement in the employability of those people who have been aged 45 plus above. But in the case of those people who have been aged between 15 to 30 you could able to see that there has been a drastic decline in terms of number of people who have been employed across in this age category. Okay, this is what the news is related to, and that is why the topic of the news is young Indians but aging workforce. So okay, let's relate how the news is related to UPSC civil service examination. It is related to UPSC Civil Service Examination under GS3 Economic Development. Under Economic Development, a subtopic called Indian Economy and Issues Relating to Planning, Mobilization of Resource, Growth, Development and Employment. So it is very important in terms of economic development, GS paper 3. Okay, let's look into how the previous year questions were asked in relation to the employment. Since the news is related to employment, we will look into how the previous year questions were asked. During mains 2018, UPSC mains 2018, GS paper 3, there was a question. How globalization has led to reduction of employment in the formal sector of Indian economy? This is increased informalization is detrimental to the development of the country. So this is what the previous year mains question is. And similarly, we could look into how the prelims question have been asked. During 2013 period, they asked what does the disguised unemployment is. Disguised unemployment is that engaging more number of people in a place where the smaller or only lesser people are required for the work, so that because of employing more number of work in a particular area which is way higher than the required number of people for doing that work, their marginal productivity of their labor, that is those who have the extra laborers who have been employed in that sector, their marginal productivity will be 0. So that is what the answer is. Answer C. Option C is the answer for this question. Option A is not correct. Large number of people remains unemployed. No. Large number of people will be employed, but their productivity will be 0 because they are those people who have been employed are excess only. Instead, they should have been employed in another sector like manufacturing and service sector. And second option is alternative employment is not available. It is not so. Because of lack of skilling problem and lack of awareness problem, they could not able to find a job other than the sector in which they are working. And D, productivity of the workers is low. No, the productivity will be not low. So when in across all the statement, option C is the correct answer. Okay, let's discuss how the employment level is according to our economic survey 2022-23. In economic survey 2022-23, what it has been said is that urban employment rate declined from 9.8 to 7.2. The urban employment rate in the age of those urban unemployment rate. What the economic survey has said is that the urban unemployment rate has declined from 9.8 to 7.2 during the last year. And the unemployment rate what they have calculated is for those people who have been aged 15 as well as above. Second is the labor force participation rate is also increased. And in terms of while calculating both rural as well as urban unemployment rate, there has been a drastic fall in terms of percentage of people who have been unemployed in both rural as well as area from 5.8% in 2018-19 to 4.2% in 2020-21. So this is what the details of what the economic survey is said about. Let's look into what does the periodic labor force survey is, because from this survey only the data for economic survey has been picked up. The periodic labor force survey has been launched by National Sample Survey Office under Ministry of Statistics as well as Program Implementation, and it has been introduced to regularly update the employment as well as unemployment level in India. Second is, and it is used to estimate the key indicators of employment as well as unemployment in India. What are the key indicators are the labor force and the unemployment rate and so on. Okay, what is the, okay, let us first discuss about the employment as well as unemployment indicators. The first one is labor force participation rate. It is the total number of labor force, that is, labor force means those people who have been working as well as those who have been searching for the job and they are available for the work. The percentage of these people compared with overall population of the country is called as labor force participation rate, and then worker population rate is the, and second indicator is workers population rate is total number of people, the percentage of total number of people who have been employed in comparison with the overall population, and then the unemployment rate. It is defined as the percentage of people who have been unemployed in relation with the overall labor force. And then these are all the indicators which the periodic labor force will be calculating, and based upon the output of these indicators we could able to have a judgment in relation to the employability in India. Okay, let's discuss what are the challenges for employment in India. The first and foremost challenge is the lack of skill among the youth, so that even if the job is there also means they are not ready to take up the job because of the lack of skill. Second is we all know that nearly 45% of a country's GDP has been contributed from the MSME sector. The MSME sector has the highest number of employability rate, but this sector has been suffering because of rigid rules and regulations, so that they could not be able to expand or innovate in the sectors. The people, those who have been doing, those who are involved in the MSME sectors could not able to innovate or improvise in their sector because of the rigid rules and regulations, as a result of which the employability is getting stagnated or at sometimes it is getting reduced. Second is limitation of distribution centers for food processing. As we all know, the agricultural products will act as the raw material or the input for the food processing industries, and this food processing industries will be concentrated on the village areas or the rural areas, which has the highest potential for employing the local people. But this food processing has been suffering from lack of distribution center. Distribution center is that the products which is produced from the food processing needed to reach the consumer. The gap between the consumer and the food processing will be filled by the distribution center, and this distribution center is lagging in India. So the product will be coming here, there will be this center will enable the transfer of those product or distribute those product to consumer. Because of lack of availability of this distributor centers, the food processing industry is little bit stagnating, as a result of which it could not able to employ the huge the number of people which it could have able to employ. And then the lack of electricals, the electrical items like switches and other electrical devices which could be easily manufactured in India itself, particularly in the rural or the semi-urban areas, where it could act as the boon for employability of the local people. But because of this electrical goods which has been imported mostly from the China or other countries, our industries are not getting picking up. As a result of which its employability is also in this electrical goods manufacturing sector is getting stagnated, as a result of which the employment is also getting stagnated. These are all the things which has the huge potential to employ the persons, and underutilization of labors. There are certain section of labors who have semi-skilled or unskilled. They require certain experience or skilling training so that they could able to be easily employed in another sector. But because of non-availability of this kind of trainings and then lack of awareness to the people themselves itself, they have not been properly utilized. So as a result of which they could not be able to employed in another sector where their full potential could be realized, but they have not been utilized. They are not being utilized for their fullest potential. So underutilization of the labor is also a challenge for the employment in India. So lack of employment policy. So all development starts with policy only. Policy will be acting as the catalyst for the development of particular sector or the particular area in which the policy is made. So because of lack of employment policy in India, the catalyst for increasing employment is not taking place. Then there is imbalance in the workforce participation. During 2020 October to December period, the male participating in the workforce is the 73.6%, but in the case of females participation in the workforce is the 20.5% only. See, we could able to see the drastic gap between the participation of men as well as female. So they needed to needed to give an opportunity, and so that they could also able to realize their fullest potential, which will directly contribute to the increasing employment in India. And then because of increased expectation among the youths, they are hesitating to take up the certain jobs which is not suitable for their expectation. So increased expectation is also hindering the person to participate in the employment. So these are all the challenges for the employment in India. Okay, what we needed to do so that we could able to increase employment is that we needed to increase the semi-skilled and unskilled job opportunities in India, so that more number of people who have been engaged in or who have been employed in the disguised employment of agriculture could be easily filled in the those sector which is employing semi-skilled as well as unskilled areas. Second is easing the rigid rules as well as regulation so that MSME sector could able to achieve its fullest potential, so that the employment will get increased side parallelly. Then stringent scrutiny against dumping from other country, so that if the scrutiny has been increased, means the dumping could be reduced. If the dumping could be reduced, means our local industry could be saved. Using of new technologies to increase the efficiency of the available sectors, so that the increased job opportunities could be made. And then promoting women employment by educating them, skilling them, and providing an ecosystem to them, so that they could be able to work as well as contribute to the growth and development of India. So these are all the things which we needed to do. So what initiative government has taken is that they have now formed a committee to frame a national employment policy, and it is the first, if it is materialized, means it will be the first national employment policy. Second is product linked subsidy scheme has been introduced to promote certain sector, as a result of which the employment in those sector will be increased parallelly. And then Mudra scheme as well as Startup India scheme to enhance the startup as well as MSMEs industry in India. And then Make in India scheme, Digital India, Smart City Mission, Swachh Bharat, Amrut scheme. These are all the schemes, projects as well as policies which have been implemented by our government to promote employment in India. So okay, these are all the things in relation to the news. What are the things which we needed to study further is that we should know about what is the scale for measuring BPL in India. Second is we should know about what are all the different types of employment in India. Third is we should know the functions of NSSO, National Sample Survey Office. So these are all the things which we needed to know. The other news is stalled real estate projects. What the news has said is that a panel has been set up under Niti Aayog chairman to look into the problem of the real estate sector. What the panel has found that nearly 60% of those legacy projects which is not completed or stalled in midway has been bought by the consumers already. And then what is the reason for what they have found is the reason for stalling of this kind of project is because of lack of financial viability. And then what they have recommended is that these are all the recommendations. While recovering dues from developers, there need to be delinking of grant of registrations to the home buyers. Second is there are certain projects which has completed, but these developers have not paid certain menial taxes to the local body government and the other government, so that their no objection certificate has not been given to the consumers to occupy those flats. Such kind of projects which have been completed but has been stalled from giving no object certificate to the consumer because of small minute problems needed to be fast tracked, and they need to be given the priority in occupying those flats or the house. And then they have recommended to introduce the rehabilitation project package for the project which has been stalled. So these are all the recommendations given by the panel under Niti Aayog chairman. Okay, how the news is related to civil service examination is that It is related to civil service examination under GS3 infrastructure, in a subtopic called energy, ports, roads, airways, railways, etc. Okay. What is the real problem for this real estate sector is that why the real estate sector is sinking and it is not picking up is because of the root problems falls in diversion of fund by the developers. The developers will receive the funds from the consumers for building a house or the project, but the developers will not utilize those funds for building the project of the consumer. They will be what they will be doing is they will be investing in another project, so that this project will get stalled. So this kind of diversion has been happening. And second is lack of affordable housing. Most of the project which has been planned or have been developed by these developers are mostly luxury apartments or luxury buildings, where the number of population who could able to afford these kind of buildings are very less only. So, on the other hand, the number of people who could able to afford only the affordable housings are very high. So lack of planning in doing a project made them into the problem. See, these luxury the high-end apartments or high-end flats will be bought only by the upper middle class families or other families, those who are more than above the upper middle class only, but their population are very less. But the number of projects which has been constructed or developed across the country is very high compared to the population of those upper middle class as well as those people who have been above the upper middle class families. So because of the lack, because of the mismanagement in the demand and supply, the problem, the real estate sector fell into fell. And there has been lack of holistic planning, because a developer is developing a particular project means he needed to consolidate what are all the different things which is needed for leading a day-to-day happy life for a person. For example, if a particular person wanted to buy a home in a particular area means he will be looking whether the school, colleges, market and other things which is useful for running its day-to-day life is available at the sideways or nearby areas where the flat where he is going to buy the flat or the house. If it is not there means surely he will not be buying. So most of the projects have been developed in the marginal or in an area where these kind of facilities are not available, as a result of which people hesitated to buy those houses. And the high land price also acted as one of the factor for the downfall of the real estate sector, and the high land price led to increased house price, as a result of which increased house price made the consumers too hesitant to buy the houses. So these are all the reason for downfall of the real estate sectors. Okay, what is the effect the downfall of the real estate sector causes to an economy is that it led to reduction of jobs. Secondly, it slowed down the growth of our country, because the revenue which the revenue or the product which has been used for building a project has been stopped, so that it has ripple effect in the other subsectors, so that those subsectors also got affected, and overall it led to the reduction in the growth of national income. Third is because of the non-occupancy or downfall of this real estate sectors, and it led to increased default in the banks. Fourth is if a particular project is going to be made, means there are certain raw materials like which is required for building a particular project or houses. Houses are required. So because of stalling of real estate sector, those manufacturing or those raw material making sectors have also been stalled, as a result of which it led to reduction in manufacturing and their related job losses, and finally it led to reduction in the government revenue. So these are all the effect or the downfall of the economy, downfall of the real estate sector caused to an economy. Okay. So in order to bring transparency as well as accountability in the real estate sector, government has introduced Real Estate Regulatory Authority during 2016. Why is that? To ensure transparency, to boost the domestic as well as foreign investment, because increasing in the transparency will enable the investor to gain confidence, so that they could be able to come forward and invest in the real estate sector. Third is protecting the consumers. So these are all the objectives under which the RERA or Real Estate Regulatory Authority has been formed. What is the function is that it has certain function. First is registration. If a particular project which is going to be developed is more than 500 square meter, means those projects need to be compulsorily registered under Real Estate Regulatory Authority, and then the developers needed to compulsorily disclose their projects details like carpet areas, amenities, and so on and so forth, and other important details related to the project. And then introduction of escrow account. The 70% of the fund which has been bought from the consumers for a particular product needed to be deposited in this account, and from this account only the expenditure in relation to the building the project will be taking place. And then it defined the carpet area. Carpet area is those usable areas with, of the particular land, and it excludes the areas like areas where the leisure activities could take place, like balconies, walkways, like that. Similarly, it has strictly implemented the timely completion of the project. If the project is not being timely completed, what the developer has promised to the consumer, means then he will be penalized. And then the real estate agents needed to register under RERA, so that they, what are all the details, what are all the commissions they are getting, and which are all the projects they are dealing with. These are all the things which the real estate agents are, along with their registration, needed to mention while registering under RERA. And then grievance redressal mechanism is formed under each state's RERA, so that the grievance of the consumers will be heard and then disposed accordingly. And then liability, it has made the developers as liable for any mismanagement or delay in the completion of the project. So this is what the function of the RERA is, and through this only the three objectives which we have seen, the transparency, protecting home buyers, and increasing the foreign investment in the real estate sector will be achieved. Okay, what is the challenges that the Real Estate Regulatory Authority faces? That the project which is less than 500 square meters has no compulsory registration. Second is, there is delay in approving the project from the authority side. Third is, the past projects are not included in it. These are all the challenges of Real Estate Regulatory Authority. So what is the initiative taken by the government is that a special window for affordable mid-income housing scheme has been introduced, so that the stalled project could be completed. Second is, National Real Estate Development Council has also been introduced. Third is, tax concession has been given so that the projects could be easily completed at faster time. Okay, what we needed to study is that apart from the analysis which we have seen in the previous slides, we should know about the Ministry of Housing as well as Urban Affairs functions. Second is we should know about the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, that building affordable housings for the people by the government. Third is about alternative investment fund. Why it is? Because the special window for affordable and mid-income housing fund which has been introduced by government as alternate investment fund. So we need to know what is alternative investment fund and which authority is authorized to regulate this kind of funds. So these are all the analysis as well as other areas which we needed to be studied. Banking system liquidity turns deficit. This is the news. So what is the, from the topic thing itself we could able to know that the liquidity in the banking system got reduced or turned into deficit. Why it is? Because of increased cash reserve ratio requirement by the RBI. So that the banks needed to deposit the increased percentage requirement of the CRR to the RBI, and then the advance tax payment will be made in the coming month. Then the selling of dollars by the RBI to stem the crisis of the rupee depreciation. These are all the factors which led to increased deficit in the liquidity in banking system. So how the news is related to civil service examination is that it is related to UPSC GS3 economic development under Indian economy and issues relating to planning, mobilization of resource, growth, development and employment. Okay, let's look into the previous prelims question, how it was, how whenever this kind of news comes means a question will be asked. When the Reserve Bank of India reduces the statutory liquidity ratio by 50 basis points means which one of the following is likely to happen? India's GDP growth rate increases drastically, foreign institutional investors may bring more capital into country, scheduled commercial bank may cut their lending rates, it may drastically reduces the liquidity to the banking system. Option D is the correct. Will reduce the similar like CRR, which the bank needed to deposit a certain percentage of the money in the RBI with the RBI. Similarly, the statutory liquidity ratio, where the RBI will be giving a guidance. According to the guidelines, the banks will be keep the certain percentage of their net time and demand liability in the form of cash, gold and other RBI approved securities. So if the certain percentage of amount has been increased means the percentage of amount which is needed to be kept as SLR by the bank has been increased means then the remaining amount only they could able to lend to the customers. Those SLR they could not able to lend to the customers during the normal time. So that it will lead to reduction in the liquidity of the banking system. Okay, what does the banking liquidity is? So we are talking about the term liquidity. Liquidity is available cash, so which will enable the bank to meet its immediate financial need as well as its future financial need. And then how tight the liquidity, since the liquidity has turned into deficit in the banking system, how will it will affect the consumer is the consumer, there will be a lack of sufficient fund to dispose the credit to the consumer, so that all the consumers who are approaching to the bank for the credit will not be getting the credit. because of lack of availability of fund in the banking system. Second is because of lack of availability of the liquidity in the banking system, it will lead to increase in the government security yield. Then because of rise in government security yield, it will be leading to increase in the rate of credit, for the consumers, because the credit rate will be decided based on the MCLR. So the MCLR has one of its benchmark rate as government security yield. So that increased security yield will get transformed into increased credit rate for the consumers. So what is the reason for? So okay, RBI is sucking the or taking back the excess liquidity that is present in the banking system. What is the reason for this high liquidity in the banking system is, right now because of increased inflation, the RBI is raising its repo rate, as a result of which the deposit rate is also getting increased, so that the people are interested more on earning interested in earning interest from the savings account as well as time deposit account, so that there has been increased deposit from the consumer side. And then during pandemic, government followed easy monetary policy to pick up or to catalyst or enhance the growth of economy. So it also led to increased cash flow in the banking system. And then it led after pandemic, government is right now spending enormously to boost the infrastructure activity across the country. This also led to increased liquidity in the system. So these are all the reason for increased liquidity in the system. Okay, this is what the analysis related to the deficit banking liquidity turning deficit related. So what we needed to study further is we should know about monetary policy. Second is we should know about inflation. What are the different types of inflation in India? Third is we should know about the liquidity adjustment facility of the monetary policy community, through which they will be regulating the inflation in the country. So we should know all about all this. Treated Fukushima water into sea. Japan will start disposing the 1 million metric ton of treated radioactive water into the sea in the coming days, and the water contains 190 becquerel of tritium per liter, which is way below than World Health Organization's limit of 10,000 becquerel per liter. So World Health Organization also given a go ahead for Japan to dispose the water into the sea, and then International Atomic Energy Agency also, after doing some inspection, they also given a go ahead for the disposing of the water into the radioactive water into the sea. So this is what the news is. Okay. Let's discuss about the previous prelims question related to in relation to the nuclear reactor. The function of heavy water in a nuclear reactor is 2. So I want those students, those who are watching this current affairs session online, please do comment answer point for the question we are seeing right now on the board. Okay, let's get into the analysis. How the news is related to UPSC exam is that the news is related to UPSC General Studies paper 3 under environment under a subtopic called environmental pollution as well as degradation. Okay, what is the Fukushima issue? During 2011, the Japan's Fukushima nuclear reactor has been damaged because of tsunami as well as the earthquake which happened simultaneously. So the Fukushima nuclear reactor got damaged, and till now the seepage or the liquid which is seeping out from the damaged Fukushima water has been collected in the separate tank. The cooling water is being collected in the separate tank, and right now this tank contains advanced liquid processing system which takes away most of the radioactive element that is present in the discharged water. And right now the Japan is going to dispose this water only into the sea. So this is what the issue related to Fukushima, and it contains only, right now the radioactive water contains tritium, which is the isotope of hydrogen, and it has half-life of 12.5 years. That processor could not able to filter out this tritium, and this is what the major criticism is. And what are all the concerns being raised is the contamination or the radioactive water will contaminate the sea ecosystem. Secondly, it will be leading to increased biomagnification. Then it will be leading to reduced confidence among the consumers, so that the fishing sectors will get affected. So these are all the concerns being raised, and the International Atomic Energy Agency has given a go ahead for this disposal of the radioactive water. Okay, let's look into the what does the International Atomic Energy Agency is about. It is an intergovernmental agency established in 1957, and it is the organization within United Nations. It is headquartered in it reports to United Nations Security Council as well as United Nations General Assembly. And why it has been introduced is it wanted to promote the peaceful use of nuclear programs, and it is located in Vienna, Austria. Okay, let's discuss about how the nuclear power plant will be working. Nuclear power plant will heat the water to produce the steams, and this steam will be used to spin the large turbines, which in turn generates the electricity. The nuclear power plants, in the nuclear power plant, the heat will be generated through nuclear fission reaction. As a result, because of this fission reaction only, heat will be produced, and this heat will be used to turning the cool water into steam, and this steam will be used to run a turbine or rotate the turbine, which in turn will produce the electricity. And this nuclear reactor core is made of uranium fuel. So this is what the working of the nuclear reactor is about. And this uranium fuel in the core will be arranged in the form of like fuel rod, like this. So they will be arranged in the form of like fuel rod, which is called as fuel assembly or assembly fuel. So this is what the extra detail of the working plan, and it will be used to generate nuclear fission reaction, as a result of which heat will be produced, and which in turn act as input for generating electricity. So what we needed to study further is we should know about the India's nuclear program is. Second is we should know about the uranium reserve that is present across the world. Which country has the maximum amount of uranium reserve? Then third is we should know about India's energy mix. Fourth is we should know of the geography of the sea besides Japan. So these are all the other areas which we needed to be aware of. Okay, students, with this we have reached the end of today's session. I hope it will be very useful for those students who are watching it, and we will be updating the daily current affairs session regularly. Please do watch and keep updated with the current affairs session. Thank you.